if I were to start all over again, I would build the team around me by leveraging teams that already exist. Now, maybe you're saying, well, Doug, I want to do my own thing. I want to build my own brand. I want to build my own team. I probably would be that person too. It's in my DNA. I can't help it. I would still take the path that I'm talking about because after 12 months, at least, I will have learned a lot. Welcome back to the podcast, and today I want to cover a fun question that I don't know if I've ever talked about on air here, and it is, what would Doug do if he was able to start over from scratch and start as a brand new agent? And I really struggle with this question to give the answer that would be very helpful to you. So I'm going to reframe this question slightly and to be more like you. Because if I were to start over today in Chattanooga, Tennessee, I have a lot of relationships. I have a lot of experience. I have a lot that I don't know if it would connect. And so what I want to do is I want to give you, if I were to move to another city and start over, knowing what I know today, because I think that would be very relevant to a lot of you that's starting in the business, because at that point, I wouldn't know any agents. I wouldn't have any past clients, and I truly would be starting from scratch, but with almost 20 years of knowledge. I'm on my 19th year, so almost 20 years of knowledge that I would restart over, and what would I do differently? So let's dive into this. I hope this is helpful for you because I'm kind of excited to reflect. So if I think about if I were to start over, the first thing that I would do in another city, by the way, and I'd probably go somewhere fun. Yeah, I'd definitely go somewhere fun. I'd go somewhere like to the beach. But I'd be very careful that I didn't go to a second market. I feel like those second markets are a little scary sometimes. I'd probably find someone where there's consistent opportunity all around the year and not just seasonal, so I'm not running around vacationers all the time. I hear that, and I feel for you guys in those second markets. But if I'm in a new market, knowing what I know today, and I'm starting over, the first thing that I would do before I join a brokerage or a team is I would interview every major player in town, every single major player in town. I might even already know who I want to go with, or have a hunch of who I might end up landing with because of reviews or because presence or signs in yards or stats. But I would interview every single team and brokerage out there because that is going to do a couple things. One, it's going to teach me a lot about the marketplace. It's going to teach me about how the agents and brokerages operate, the obvious. But it's also going to help me start right out the gate to build relationships and make a mark in that community. So let's say, for example, I went to whatever city. I don't even want to pick one. But let's say I go to whatever city, and I would literally go on Google. I think I'd just go to Google, and I'd look at reviews to start out. And I'd go down Google, and I'd say, okay, what teams or brokerages have the most reviews? And I'd start to compile a list before I even made my first call, and I'd get very clear on who all do I want to interview. I'd look at companies, teams, brokerages and teams, and I'd start with reviews. And then I'd probably go to social media next. I'd probably join all of the real estate Facebook groups, I guess you could say, and any Facebook group for realtors, and I'd see who here is helpful, who here is asking questions. I'd look to see just who is all the people that seem to be engaged in the industry. And I might do a little extra research and decide if they're going to make the list. I'd probably go to the biggest companies because the biggest companies are probably doing something right. I'd go to the companies and the teams that have the highest stats. Chances are the top 20 agents in town is a team leader of some sort. And so I'd look those people up, and I'd probably spend my first 2 weeks, if not even a month, just in investigating as much as I could. And I would line up interviews with every single one of those team leaders and every single one of those brokers. And I'd say, my full-time job, I got to slow down to speed up. I know I want to start jumping into sales right away. I know I need to start making money, but I'd want to slow down to speed up. I want to interview as many people as I can because I'm going to learn a lot about what's the minimum commissions in the market? What is the normal standard of practice? I know some markets like staging is a big thing, where other markets staging isn't a thing. Discount commissions are one thing, where others they're not. I'd learn a lot about where are consumers coming to find their agents, because all of these team leaders or brokers are going to likely pitch you on where they get their business from. I'm also going to look to challenge these individuals to figure out what's accountability look like, what's coaching look like, who coaches them as a leader. I think that's a really great interview question, by the way. I think I could do a whole show on just how to interview brokers, but I'm gonna not go down that rabbit hole. But I would want to know who coaches them. I'd want to know what the culture of the company is like. What's the team camaraderie look like? Whether it's a brokerage or a team, there's still a group of people there. And I'd spend a ton of time interviewing people. And I'd probably focus on landing with the team. Even though I own a brokerage, I run the number one team in Chattanooga, I'm pretty sure I would just start on someone's team, because it is hard now. I got to say, if reflecting back of when I got started in the business, my parents got in 2004, I got in 2005, and Zillow didn't exist. That wasn't a thing. I remember we started calling for sale by owners, and we spent a lot of time calling for sale by owners in the newspaper. I was probably the youngest person at 19 years old that subscribed to the Times Free Press in Chattanooga, the newspaper, because I needed to figure out what new listings by for sale by owners were popping up so I could call them and try to get an appointment. I'd probably continue to do that as well. That's the low-hanging fruit, because I don't know anybody in town. I may not have the budget to spend any money on lead flow myself, so I'd be looking for what's the low-hanging fruit? Who is someone that is literally raising their hand saying, I have a need in real estate and I don't have a representative on my side? I'm calling those people. That makes a lot of sense. But I'm probably joining a team too, because I'm looking for lead flow. Because yes, coaching's important. Yes, accountability is important. Yes, the culture of the company is important. But I don't know anybody. That's going to be difficult. There's no doubt about it. So I'm going to figure out, where can I build my business within someone else's business and hit the goals that I want. So I'm going to get out there and I'm going to hunt for teams. It's probably where I'm going to end up landing, but I still want to interview all these different brokerages as well, just so I can learn. There are a lot of, there's a common term that floats out there now. It's called like a teamerage, where it's a team-owned brokerage. So I feel like that's more of what I am in my town in Chattanooga, but I'm going to challenge everybody to figure out, what is it actually like? And once I decide where I'm going to land, oh, by the way, we didn't mention money. I'm not worried about the money. I think money takes care of itself. There are brokerages out there that will pay you 100% of the money, literally 100% of your commissions, and you may have like a transactional fee. Talked to a guy the other day that joined a company. He pays $300 a transaction at his brokerage. And I'm like, how on earth is that broker making money? How are they providing resources? Oh, they're not. They're a landlord for agents. That's what that is. That's for some people. That would not be for me, because I would need resources to help me grow my business. So I'd want to make sure that the mother hen wins with me, not just I win alone. And so I wouldn't worry totally about the money, in a sense of take a team 50-50 split. They're going to do all the hard work for you and you get to be a salesperson. That generally sounds like a good idea to me. So I'm probably going to end up landing with a team. And I just wanted to touch on the money part, because I know some of you are thinking, what about splits? Don't worry about it. Figure out where you're going to hit your goals, and that's going to make a lot of sense for you. Now, before I join the company, I'm going to properly break up with everybody that I interviewed with extremely professionally. I will probably send an email or a handwritten letter or a formal letter maybe, but I want to make sure that they know that I respected their time, I appreciated the opportunity, and I learned something from them, and I want to thank them for that and hope to do business with them in the future on the other side of the closing table. Because I don't want to burn bridges. I want to get to know all these people, and then they think, Doug is somebody who's going to make it here, and we need to stay in touch with him because he may be on the other side of the closing table with us. So I'm going to make sure that I break up with those interviews properly along the way. It's amazing how many people I've seen over the years that it's almost a scary tactic, or tactic's wrong word. It's almost scary for me if someone tells me they interviewed with other people and they decided to join our team, and I ask them and I say, hey, how did you break up with them? Sometimes I hear, I just didn't. And I'm like, you ghosted them? You scared of conflict? This is your first coaching session. Before you start here, you have to properly break up with those people, because I want my team to have a good reputation. And you're a part of that team if you're joining. So let's start off on the right foot. So really important to break up with the people. Now, once I've landed the company, I've got to think through the filter of the company or the team that I just joined has something to offer, and I don't need to try to be the hero. I need to be the student. I need to absolutely be the student. So I'd probably lean in to exactly whatever company or team that I joined, and I'd say, before I try to reinvent the wheel and do what I think is going to work, I'm going to take 6 months at minimum, 6 months, and say I'm fully committed to their strategy. I'm fully committed to their scripts. I'm fully committed to their lead sources. And and it could be that they're going to coach you to work your sphere. It could be that they're going to coach you to work your influence, the people that influence you and the people you know, but that's part of it. So I'm going to be fully embraced, or I am going to fully embrace exactly what they teach me, and I'm going to go all in with them. I'm also probably going to focus on shadowing as many of the team members in that company or team that have lots of success, because I have learned, being in this business for 19 years, again, this show is what would you do if you started over knowing what you know now? I know that there are agents that are extremely busy, that are veterans, that can't serve all their clients. And many people in that role are control freaks. I know many of them. And they're scared to hand off a potential customer to someone else because they're scared of how that someone else might take care of that client or customer. So I want to spend some time shadowing with the veterans that do lots of business, that appear to be very busy, by asking if I can shadow them, asking if I can take them to coffee, asking them if I can be their driver for the day. I want to provide them with some value. So can I drive you around for the day, pick your brain, or just listen, because I'm sure you're busy and on the phone? I guarantee you at the end of the day, what will likely happen is that veteran will look at you, if you did all the right things, and say, I think this would happen with me. They would look at me and they'd say, hey, this customer that we just met is a little needier than I have time for. You want to split this deal and you run with them and I'll be the mouthpiece? Like they may do the presentation and then I'll go run and actually do the work. And I'm going to probably accidentally slip into a half of a deal right out the gate if I play my cards right. So I'm going to, in a sense, be a temporary assistant for the veterans on that team or company that is giving me the opportunity to shadow them. I would definitely do that. That makes a lot of sense. And so from there on out, if you do that for a handful of those top agents, they're going to say, Doug's a hustler. He's smart. He can keep his mouth shut when he needs to, but when he does speak, he can say the right things because he's learning, he's coachable. And so chances are what will happen is they'll just keep throwing you opportunity. They'll keep throwing you opportunity. The team leader or the broker is probably going to recognize that this is happening. Now, again, they just need to recognize that it's happening. Don't go up to your broker and say, look what I did, because you still need to stay humble along this process. The work will be noticeable when the results come. So you don't have to tell everybody your plan. You just have to follow the team's plan, and they will absolutely recognize the success that's coming along. And so there will probably be better opportunities and new opportunities that come around the corner. I guarantee that every broker and every team leader gets a phone call from a past client because they've probably been in the business for a long time, and they get those calls saying, hey, I need to buy or sell, or another agent from another city saying, I got a referral for you. They're probably going to call that broker or team leader. I get those calls all the time. And that broker or team leader has to delegate that to one of the agents. Well, the thing is veterans, although I'm sure there's some clients that the broker or team leader is going to give to the veteran, there are also clients that the broker or team leader may say, I really would like to give this to the veteran, but they're so busy, I'm scared they're not going to be available, and it's going to make me look bad. So let me give this lead to a newer agent that shows lots of promise. And I want to be that newer agent that shows lots of promise. I want to be the king of referrals from within my company. And after time, everything will start to fall into place. So if I were to start all over again, I would build the team around me by leveraging teams that already exist. Now, maybe you're saying, well, Doug, I want to do my own thing. I want to build my own brand. I want to build my own team. I probably would be that person too. It's in my DNA. I can't help it. I would still take the path that I'm talking about because after 12 months, at least, I will have learned a lot. Because if I interviewed that many teams and brokerages, I would have landed in a great spot. And I have a feeling the opportunity would present itself to me after about a year. Hopefully, I've hit the goals that I want to hit. Hopefully, I've done the right things that I was committed to. And then I get to take a step back and say, what's next? What is next? Is there a management role within this team or this company or a leadership role to where I could earn more opportunity or maybe earn more compensation for taking on higher level responsibilities other than just representing buyers and sellers? I think those things would follow. I spoke to an old coaching client of mine when I was coaching for Tom Ferry. He reached out to me the other day, and I remember working with him in the Carolinas, owned his own brokerage, ran a really great operation. And my first coaching call I had with him, I said, what's the goal? Because that's usually how most of our coaching calls start out. We got to get clear on what the goal is. And he said, my goal is to move to Florida. He says, I want to take my family to Florida. It's something I promised my family I'd do one day. And I was very proud of him because he called me not too long ago and he said, hey, I did it. I've been down in Florida for 6 months. And he says, I'm trying to figure out where to find leads. And I thought, oh man, dude, think about this. You have worked a very long time building a company, and now you move and take your family to Florida and you want to kill yourself again and start all over. I was like, man, just join a team. And we talked about some of the stuff that I'm sharing on the podcast today. But and it hit him, and it was like, you know what? That makes sense, because his mindset was, I think it was at least, it was, what if I became the top agent on a team, helped improve the team, worked my way up into leadership, and I just buy the team? And I was like, that's a pretty good idea, if that makes sense and where you're headed and where your head's at and where your goals are. But there's opportunity to go there. The biggest mistake that one can make starting over is to try to do it all on your own. There's a book, it's sitting on my shelf behind the camera over here. It's called Who Not How. If you haven't read it, even if you don't read it, buy it and just sit it on your coffee table. Who Not How. And because it'll just make you question every single day, instead of figuring out how to start in real estate, instead of figuring out how to build your own team, instead of figuring out how to make that money. The real question is who? It's all about relationships. Starting young in this business, people would say you need, networking is important. They would say you need to surround yourself with great people. And I didn't really get that at 19 years old. And I don't think I was supposed to get it at 19 years old. But now at 39 years old, I'm sitting here thinking, wow, the who's are the most important thing. That's the best opportunities that have come to me from landing all sorts of great opportunities, from contracts with big lead providers to builders to all sort, like every big whale that I've landed was not something that I figured out how to do it. It was someone knew me that I'd built a strong relationship with. They were my who, and guess what? They needed a who to refer someone to, and next thing you know, we're each other's who, and we're solving problems together, and the big opportunities come. The process of starting in this business, and again, for me, if I went to that beach community and I said, I'm starting over, I really understand what every older person has told me of enjoy the journey, don't worry about the destination. I really am starting to understand that more now than ever, because every goal I've ever set has generally not been hit, but it led to something greater. I still did better than the year before. I still accomplished something new. But as I decided to make a decision, it changed the landscape of everything that I was doing. And I realized the goal changes. The destination changes. The fork in the road where you thought you needed to go left, it might be very apparent later once you get into the journey that it's clear that you should go right. And I really believe that if you can just focus on the who's and not the how's, you're going to have the success that you need. But it takes you investing time into learning who those who's are. So just to recap, interview tons of people, fall in love with their process of whoever you decide to land with, learn the market from inside and out, start to surround yourselves with great mentors and all the who's out there that are going to help you accomplish your goals. And yes, it's okay to have the goal. You may want to own your own team, your own brokerage. You may want to own whatever it is one day. But building it up on your own, it's probably unlikely that it's going to happen. There's very few people that accomplish that. But doing it with others and having the opportunity to be brought into a bigger game or to maybe buy someone's game, that is where the real magic happens. I hope this podcast was helpful for you today. It took me down memory lane on some levels, and I'm excited to see what you might be doing if you're getting in this business. If you're thinking about joining the business right now, or in any industry, not in any industry, in any market is what I meant to say. If you're thinking about joining this industry in any market, reach out to me. If you want to have a deeper dive, I would love to be just a page in your book. I'd love to be along the way of your journey to where you could say, hey, Doug was my who to help guide me along the way. That would fill my cup up. Thanks for listening. Can't wait to see you next time on the podcast.